Don't give me that victim look. You have owed me this since 1999. My father blocked the doorway of my own apartment, wearing his muddy outdoor shoes on my cream carpet. Behind him, my living room was completely empty. My furniture was gone. My books were gone. The only thing left was my sister, Bella. She was standing in the center of the room, wearing a $10,000 wedding dress and sipping red wine. We sold the apartment, my mother said, stepping out from the bedroom. And we threw your junk in storage. Bella needs the money for her deposit. She deserves to shine. My father leaned in close, his breath smelling like stale alcohol. Consider this restitution for the career you ruined when you were 7. It is time you paid your debt. I did not scream. I did not cry. I gripped the handle of my suitcase, turned around, and walked away in deadly silence. I sat in the passenger seat of Julian's car, watching the city lights blur into streaks of neon. The heated leather seat was warm against my back, a stark contrast to the cold hallway I had just left. But I could not stop shivering. Julian did not ask questions. He just drove, his hand resting protectively on the console between us. He knew better than to ask why they did it. We both knew the answer. The answer was 1999. I was 7 years old. It was a Tuesday. My father, Robert, had the interview of a lifetime, a regional director position that came with a company car and a salary that would have changed our lives. We were driving to the airport. I remember the smell of his cologne, heavy and musk-like, mixing with the stale air of our old station wagon. I started to feel sick. I told him. I begged him to pull over, but he was running late, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Hold it in, Harper, he had snapped. Do not ruin this for me. I tried. I really did. But biology does not care about ambition. I threw up all over the back seat, all over his suit jacket that was hanging on the hook. He had to pull over. He tried to clean it. But the smell was impossible to hide. He missed his flight. He missed the interview. He never got the job. From that day on, I ceased to be his daughter. I became the jinx. If the water heater broke, it was because I used too much hot water. If the car needed repairs, it was because my bad luck was contagious. I grew up apologizing for my existence. I worked 3 jobs in high school, not to buy clothes, but to pay rent for a room in my own parents' house. I thought if I paid enough, if I achieved enough, the debt would be settled. I became a forensic auditor because I was obsessed with balancing the books. I thought I could audit my way back into their love. Then came Bella. My sister was born 3 years after the incident. She was the do-over, the lucky star. While I scrubbed floors to pay for my own field trips, Bella got ballet lessons, modeling camps, and a credit card linked to my father's shrinking retirement fund. She never worked a day in her life. She called herself an influencer, but her only influence was draining our parents' bank accounts to fund a lifestyle she could not afford. She believed she deserved the world simply because she existed. And my parents believed it too. That is why the apartment hurt so much. It was not just drywall and concrete. It was the first thing in my life that was purely mine. I had bought it with bonus checks and skipped vacations. I had eaten instant noodles for 3 years to save that down payment. It was my fortress against their chaos. And they had gutted it. They did not just sell a condo, Harper, Julian said, his voice cutting through my memory. He turned onto the highway, the city fading behind us. They liquidated your safety to buy her a stage. I looked at him. Julian was the only person who knew the full story. He was a commercial litigator, a man who hunted fraud for a living. He saw the world in black and white, in contracts and breaches. He did not see a family in crisis. He saw parasites feeding on a host. Bella needs a helicopter, I said, my voice sounding hollow. She wants to drop rose petals on the guests. That is what my home bought. 15 seconds of slow-motion video. She will get her helicopter, Julian said, his eyes fixed on the road, dark and dangerous. But she is going to pay a premium for it. I looked down at my hands. They were steady now. The trembling had stopped. The little girl who cried in the back seat of a station wagon was gone. She had been replaced by a woman who knew exactly how to track a transaction. My father thought I owed him for a missed flight in 1999. He was about to learn that interest rates on emotional debt are compounding, and I was finally coming to collect. Take me to your office, I said. Julian glanced at me, a small, sharp smile playing on his lips. It is midnight, Harper. I know, I replied. But we have a contract to write. We sat in the conference room of Julian's law firm. The glass walls overlooked the sleeping city, but my attention was focused entirely on the small screen of my phone. My parents thought they were clever. They thought changing the physical lock on my door was enough to keep me out. They forgot that I audit security protocols for a living. 3 weeks ago, I had noticed things missing from my apartment. Expensive face creams, a silk scarf, a spare set of keys. I suspected Bella. So, I bought a USB wall charger that doubled as a wide-angle camera and plugged it into the outlet facing the dining table. It connected directly to the cloud. They had thrown out my furniture, but they had left the charger. I opened the app. The timeline showed motion detected at 2 in the afternoon. I pressed play. On the screen, my parents were sitting at my dining table. My father, Robert, was holding a pen, hunched over a document. My mother, Linda, was standing behind him, massaging his shoulders. "Watch the loop on the H," Linda said, her voice tinny through the phone speaker. "She makes it sharp at the top." Robert laughed. It was a wheezing, self-satisfied sound. "I taught her how to write, Linda. I can forge her hand better than she can." He signed the paper with a flourish. "There. The quitclaim deed is done. The notary owes me a favor. He will stamp it without her." I watched them high-five. They were not desperate people making a hard choice. They were giddy. They were having fun committing a felony. Then, a notification banner dropped down from the top of my screen. It was an email from Heritage Auction House. Confirmation of consignment. Item number 4204. Vintage Akoya pearl strand. My breath hitched. Those pearls were not just jewelry. They were the only thing my grandmother left me directly, bypassing my father's grasp. She had put them around my neck on my 18th birthday and whispered, "These are for you, Harper. Do not let them take these." I scrolled forward in the video footage. Linda was holding the pearls up to the light. "Are you sure we should sell these?" Robert asked, though he didn't look concerned. "People might ask." Linda sneered at the necklace. "Dead people's jewelry is bad luck, Bob. Besides, they smell old. Selling them buys the imported hydrangeas Bella wants for the centerpieces. Much fresher. Bella deserves new things, not hand-me-downs." Imported hydrangeas. They traded my grandmother's legacy for flowers that would rot in 48 hours. I stared at the screen, waiting for the anger to tear me apart. I waited for the heartbreak, but it didn't come. Instead, a cold clarity washed over me. It was like a fever breaking. For years, I had tried to figure out why they hated me. I thought I was flawed. I thought I was unlovable. But watching my father practice my signature, watching my mother sneer at my inheritance, I finally understood the mechanism. They did not hate me. They hated themselves. My father was a man who peaked in high school and blamed a 7-year-old for his stalled career. My mother was a woman who enabled a narcissist to avoid becoming his target. They were failures. Deep down, they knew it. But they could not live with that truth. So, they created a jinx. As long as I was the problem, they didn't have to be. As long as I was owing them, they could steal from me and call it justice. It was projection. Pure, pathetic projection. The realization killed the last shred of empathy I had for them. I looked at Julian. He was watching me, waiting to see if I would crumble. "They aren't my parents," I said, my voice steady and flat. "They are liabilities." I swiped the app closed. I didn't feel like crying anymore. I felt like working. This was no longer a family dispute. It was an audit. And I was going to balance the books. "Julian," I said, turning off my phone screen. "Let's draft the paperwork. I want to be ready when they wake up." "What is the strategy?" he asked, opening his laptop. "Grey Rock," I said. "I am going to be the most boring, compliant, beaten-down daughter they have ever seen. I am going to apologize. I am going to agree with them. And then, I am going to lead them right into the slaughterhouse." The printer in Julian's office hummed, spitting out page after page of public records. It was 3 in the morning. The coffee in my mug had gone cold hours ago, but my adrenaline was spiking. Julian picked up the stack of warm paper and spread it across the mahogany conference table. He looked like a surgeon reviewing an X-ray before an amputation. "They did not sell the condo, Harper," Julian said, his finger tracing a line on the deed history. "A traditional sale takes 30 to 60 days. They needed the cash immediately for the venue deposit." "Then how is Bella inside?" I asked, looking at the documents. "How is the furniture gone?" "They forged a quitclaim deed transferring the title from you to themselves," Julian explained, sliding a paper toward me. "See? That is Robert's handwriting trying to be yours. Once the title was in their name, they did not list it on the market. They went to a predatory lender." He pointed to a lien document. "Shark Fin Capital, LLC. It is a hard money loan," Julian said, his voice flat. "It is what desperate house flippers use. High interest, short term, fast cash. They took out $120,000 against the property at 25% interest. They have the cash in hand right now, but the debt is in their name, secured by the stolen house." I stared at the numbers. They had not just stolen my home. They had turned it into a ticking time bomb. They were paying 25% interest just to buy Bella a helicopter ride. It was financial suicide. If they miss a payment, they lose the condo, I said. They will miss a payment, Julian corrected. People who pawn heirlooms to buy flowers do not have an exit strategy. But we cannot wait for the lender to foreclose. That takes months. You want your money back now. I cannot sue them, I said, rubbing my temples. Civil court takes years. By the time I get a judgment, they will have spent every dime on the wedding. We are not going to sue them, Julian said. He opened his laptop and pulled up a template. We are going to let them surrender. He typed a heading in bold letters. Confession of judgment. What is that? I asked. This, Julian said, is the nuclear weapon of contract law. It is illegal in many consumer loans, but perfectly legal in commercial transactions between private parties. By signing this, the debtor waives their right to a trial. They waive their right to a defense. They admit they owe the money up front. He turned the screen toward me. If we get Robert and Linda to sign this under the guise of a business loan, and they default, which we will ensure they do, we do not go to court to argue. I simply walk this document to the court clerk, and they issue a judgment immediately. I can freeze their bank accounts and seize their assets the same day. I read the text. It was brutal. It was efficient. It was exactly what they deserved. They will never sign this, I said. Dad thinks he is a genius. He reads everything. He reads what he wants to see, Julian countered. We will bury this clause in a stack of paperwork thick enough to choke a horse. We will offer them something they want more than safety. Money, I said. More money, Julian agreed. We tell them the hard money loan is eating them alive. We offer to finance it with a private investor me at a lower rate, and give them an extra $50,000 for the wedding. I looked at Julian. He was smiling, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a wolf watching a sheep wander away from the herd. Greed makes people blind, I whispered. Exactly, Julian said. You play the repentant daughter. You offer them the lifeline, and when they grab it, we pull them under. I stood up and walked to the window. My reflection ghosted against the glass, tired, pale, but resolute. My father thought I was weak. He thought I was the girl who got sick in the car. He didn't know he was dealing with a woman who could spot a liability from a mile away. Draft it, I said. I will make the call in the morning. I waited until 9 in the morning to make the call. I wanted them to be awake, caffeinated, and stressing about the wedding deposit. I dialed my father's number. He answered on the second ring, his voice guarded. What do you want, Harper? If you are calling to whine about the apartment, save your breath. Bella has a fitting in an hour. I am not calling to whine, Dad, I said, pitching my voice to sound small and defeated. I am calling to apologize. There was a pause on the line. Go on. I was angry last night. I was tired. I lied smoothly. But I thought about what you said. About 1999. You were right. I cost you that job. I cost this family its future. And I have been selfish, hoarding my success while you struggled. I heard him exhale. A long, satisfied sound. It takes a big person to admit when they are wrong, Harper. I am glad you finally see it. I do, I said, fighting the urge to gag. And I want to help. I looked into the loan you took out against the condo. Dad, you went to Shark Fin Capital? Do you know their interest rates? It was the only way to get the cash fast, he snapped, defensive now. We needed the deposit. I know, I soothed. But 25% interest will bankrupt you in 6 months. You will lose the condo and the cash. I let that sink in for a second. But I have a solution. I have a client, a private investor who specializes in distressed assets. He owes me a favor. He is willing to refinance your debt at 3% interest. 3%? Robert asked, his greed peaking. 3%, I confirmed. And because he trusts me, he is willing to add an extra $50,000 to the principal. Cash. For the wedding. 50,000? This time it was my mother's voice in the background. She must have been listening. Robert. Ask her if he can wire it today. Bella wants the helicopter deposit. He can have a check ready this afternoon, I said. But you have to come to his office to sign the paperwork. Today. He is flying out to Tokyo tonight. We will be there, Robert said. The dollar signs practically audible in his voice. Where is the office? Julian Vance and Associates, I said. Downtown. Noon. Bring Bella. She is a beneficiary of the funds, so she needs to sign too. We will be there, he promised. And Harper? Thank you. This is what family does. Yes, I said, my voice ice cold. This is exactly what family does. I hung up and looked at Julian. He was already dressed in his most intimidating charcoal suit, adjusting his cufflinks. They took the bait? Hook, line, and sinker, I said. They think they are getting free money. We arrived at the office an hour early. Julian's firm was designed to intimidate. Marble floors, abstract art that cost more than a house, and a conference room with glass walls that felt like an interrogation chamber. We set the stage perfectly. On the long mahogany table, Julian placed a stack of documents 3 inches thick. It was a mountain of legal jargon. Non-disclosure agreements, income verifications, asset declarations, and buried deep in the middle, on page 42, was the confession of judgment. The stack is the key, Julian reminded me. It overwhelms the cognitive load. By the time they get to the important page, their brains will be shutting down. They will just want to find the signature line. And the time pressure, I said. Exactly. Julian glanced at his watch. The international wire portal shuts at 12:15. They've got 15 minutes to sign everything. At 11:55, the elevator opened and my parents stepped out with Bella. They looked like a parody of Wealth. Bella in oversized sunglasses indoors with a designer bag I knew was fake. My father in his cheap business suit, 2 sizes too big. My mother wearing the pearls. My throat tightened. She hadn't sold them. She'd redeemed the pawn ticket or pulled them out of consignment just to wear today to look rich for the investor. Seeing those bad luck pearls on her neck burned off my last hesitation. Harper, Bella squealed, doing a fake air kiss. Dad said you got us the helicopter money. Best sister ever. I try, I said, stepping away. This is Mr. Vance. He's the investor. Julian didn't smile or offer a hand. He checked his watch, annoyed. You're late. My flight's in 2 hours. The wire portal closes in 12 minutes. If we don't sign now, the deal is off until next month. Next month? Bella choked. But I need the deposit today. Then sit down, Julian said. And start signing. They lunged for the chairs. Robert snatched a pen, hands trembling not with nerves, with greed. He didn't read a word. He hunted the sign here stickers and scribbled as fast as he could. Linda followed, eyes down. Bella signed with a flourish, dotting her I with a heart. They were smiling while they signed away their lives. I stayed by the window, watching the city like I was waiting for a target to step into a scope. My father finally looked up at me, grinning. See, Harper? This is business. You leverage your assets. Yes, Dad, I said quietly. You do. Julian turned a page. Initial here. And here. This is the refinancing agreement. Your current home secures the loan. Standard, Robert said, signing without blinking. Collateral. I know the game. You certainly do, Julian echoed, flat as ice. Final page. Confession of judgment bold at the top. Impossible to miss if you weren't sprinting. Robert only saw the number $170,000 and signed. Linda signed. Bella signed. Done, Bella chirped, dropping the pen. Where's the check? Julian collected the pages, squared them into a neat stack, slid them into a leather folder, and snapped it shut. The sound hit the silent room like a gavel. Julian looked up. The polite investor mask disappeared. What remained was a litigator's face, the kind that wins and doesn't blink. There is no check, he said. Bella's smile collapsed. What? The money? Robert stuttered. You said the wire portal. The wire portal is closed, Julian said. Just like your options. He opened the folder and pulled out the sheet they'd just signed. Congratulations, he said, voice turning colder. You signed a confession of judgment. You admitted you owe Harper $120,000 for stealing her condo, plus punitive damages, and because you missed the immediate repayment trigger in Appendix A, I'm exercising my right to seize assets. He pointed toward the window toward the suburbs. Starting with your house. You can't take our house, my father rasped, bravado evaporating. 30 years. That's my equity. My retirement. That's my collateral, Julian corrected. He tapped the document. You admitted a debt of $170,000. You admitted you can't pay in cash. This allows an immediate lien on your primary residence. My paralegal is filing it electronically right now. Bella's voice went small. But, the helicopter. The deposit. There is no helicopter, Bella, I said, finally moving. I walked to the head of the table. There is no deposit. There is no wedding. Harper, stop, my mother hissed, clutching the pearls at her throat, my grandmother's pearls. This is a cruel joke. You're frightening your sister. Frightening her? I said. You forged my signature to steal a condo I spent 5 years paying for. You pushed a predatory loan meant to ruin me. And you're calling this cruel? I picked up the remote and turned on the wall screen. One slide. Left. A crisp photo of the Akoya pearl necklace, identical to what she wore. Right. Bella's Pinterest clip helicopter petals. That necklace survived the Great Depression, I said. Grandma hid it in a flower jar to keep creditors from taking it. It's 80 years of survival. And dignity. I pointed to the other side. That helicopter ride lasts 15 minutes. The petal drop lasts 10 seconds. The video lives for 24 hours before the algorithm buries it. I held my mother's stare. You traded a century of legacy for seconds of internet clout. You burned our history to keep Bella warm for a moment. That isn't just theft. It's pathetic. My mother's hand slid down from her throat. The pearls stopped being jewelry and became evidence. We were going to buy them back, my father muttered, gray-faced. After the wedding. After the deal. With what money? Julian cut in. You're insolvent. You've been insolvent since 1999. My father slammed the table, desperate for authority he no longer had. I'm the victim. I raised you. I put a roof over your head. You owe me. I owe you nothing, I said. But you owe the federal government an explanation. Click. The screen changed to my hidden camera footage, clear audio in the dead quiet room. Watch the loop on the H, video, Linda said. I can forge her hand better than she can. Video, Robert bragged. My father looked like the floor might swallow him. Bella covered her mouth. My mother stared at herself, committing a felony in high definition. This isn't only civil, Julian said, voice low enough to vibrate. You used the banking system to process proceeds from a fraudulent loan. That's wire fraud. Federal. Mandatory minimums. He slid a black folder across the table. Draft criminal complaint. Video. Handwriting analysis. Pawn receipts. Everything. My father stared at the folder like it was a blade. What do you want? He whispered. I want to be made whole, I said. My $120,000 back. And the pearls. Bella burst into tears. We spent some of it on the dress. The deposit. Then sell things, I said. Sell the dress, sell the car. I don't care. I leaned in, palms on the mahogany. You have 24 hours to vacate your house. Leave the keys on the counter. Julian sells it to recover my money. If the house is empty and the keys are there by noon tomorrow, I bury the video. You walk away with nothing, but you walk away free. I let the silence become unbearable. If you're still there at 12:01, I send the video to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You'll lose the house anyway. You'll just watch the auction from a cell. You wouldn't. My mother breathed. We're your parents. You stopped being my parents when you sold my home to buy her a party, I said. Tick-tock. For a second, rage flickered in my father, his old reflex. Then he looked at Julian, looked at the looped video, and he collapsed. Come on, he told my mother, voice broken. But the wedding, Bella began. Shut up, he screamed. There is no wedding. It's over, he stormed out. My mother followed, sobbing, clutching the pearls she'd have to surrender. Bella lingered long enough to glare at me, hate and confusion, then ran after them. The glass door clicked. Silence returned. I sat down, legs turning to water. I waited for guilt, for regret, for the voice that always said I was a bad daughter. Nothing came. Only the air conditioning and the crushing weight of my past lifting off my shoulders. Julian closed his laptop. Are you okay? I don't know, I said, staring at the empty chairs. But I think I'm finally debt-free. He smiled once. Yes, Harper, you are. He pulled out a small velvet pouch. Security found this. Your mother left it at the front desk. I opened it. The pearls spilled into my hands, cool, heavy, white, faintly lavender. Like my grandmother. I held them to my chest and cried for the first time in 20 years. Not grief. Relief. It's done, I whispered. Not yet, Julian said, checking his watch. Locksmith meets us at their house tomorrow at noon. We make sure they actually leave. They'll leave, I said, wiping my face. Cowards always run when the lights turn on. As we headed out, Julian asked about the flight. I applied for a transfer to the London office 3 months ago, I said. Approved yesterday. I told no one. I looked at him. I'm not just taking my money back. I'm taking my life back. No forwarding address. Friday at noon, we watched from Julian's car as the sheriff's deputy taped a neon orange eviction notice to my childhood door. They didn't even use the full day, they left early to avoid the neighbors. 4 suitcases. A box of kitchen junk. 30 years reduced to a trunk. Bella sobbed on the grass, not because she was homeless, but because her fiancé had canceled an hour earlier. Julian had sent the fiancé's lawyer a courtesy packet. Debt records, fraud risk, financial reality. The background check did the rest. No helicopter. No viral petals. Just a quiet, Humiliating end. The house goes on the market Monday, Julian said. Price to move. Good. The sale covered everything. I killed the predatory loan on my condo. I bought back the pearls. I kept exactly $120,000, the value of what they stole. Not a penny more. The remaining $40,000, I donated it to a legal aid fund for victims of financial abuse. I didn't want their profit. I wanted my balance sheet restored. Driving to the airport, my phone lit up with an old photo. Dad holding me on his shoulders at 5. Caller ID. Dad. I stared at it. Then I popped the SIM tray with my earring, snapped the chip in half, and tossed it out the window. You ready for London? Julian asked. I am, I said, touching the pearls at my neck. They said I owed them a life. I just paid them back. The change is theirs to keep. Have you ever been the safety net for a toxic family? Tell me your story in the comments. And if you believe in protecting your peace at all costs, hit that subscribe button.